Welcome to the Passive House podcast, brought to you by Passive House Accelerator, a catalyst for zero carbon building.
Welcome back to the Passive House podcast. I'm Matthew Cutler-Welsh, coming to you this week from Adelaide, Australia.
That's fun. I'm Zack Semke, coming to you from Seattle, Washington.
We've got a special component episode this week, interview that you recorded a little while ago, and I very much enjoyed listening to this on my way here. Of course, I'm on my way to the South Pacific Passive House Conference via a little trip home to where I grew up in Adelaide. So very nice to be back here. And good to be able to carry on recording and checking in with things.
Yeah, thanks for carving out the time to do this. I know as you travel. I'm really looking forward to diving into this one. I got a chance to speak with Alfred Jury, who is a certified Passive House consultant at EuroLine Windows. And EuroLine is a Canadian-based company that has been an industry leader for many, many years in the area of high performance Windows and Passive House Windows. And they've provided Passive House Windows to some of the first projects that went up in Canada, and continue to touch on a bunch of firsts, which I think we'll get to later in this. So we got a chance to learn about Alfred's journey to his work at EuroLine, learn a little bit more about the company and its mission, and also some teasers about what might be coming next. So welcome, Alfred Jury, design consultant and CPHC with EuroLine Windows. It's great to have you on the Passive House podcast.
Thanks, Zach. Nice to be here.
Yeah. So we have a lot to dive into about EuroLine and about your work there, but maybe we could start at the beginning. And if you wouldn't mind telling a little about your journey to EuroLine, a little bit about your story as a professional.
Yeah, well, I come from a construction background. I basically grew up on construction sites. It was always an argument to see who would get to go to work with dad.
Nice.
As a kid. So yeah, my father was a building contractor, and I became a building contractor as basically right out of school, and did custom homes. And I always, even as a builder, I always appreciated the value of good quality windows. I mean, they added a huge aesthetic benefit to the building, obviously, street appeal, but a good quality window was an important factor in the building performing properly. And I always recognize that, good fenestration makes for a good building. And I was living in Montreal for a long period of time when I was working as a builder. And with that climate, the windows became an even more important factor. So it was sort of a natural transition for me from being a builder to working in the window industry. And as far as coming to EuroLine's reputation really preceded itself. So EuroLine has a reputation for quality. Just driving around in the city of Vancouver, you see EuroLine projects on beautiful new custom homes, and you could see it from the street just driving by. And then getting to know the company and knowing what the company was all about, that performance and high quality products were really what their focus was. This was the place for me to come.
Yeah. And I know we'll dive into this more, but EuroLine is one of the first movers in Canada in terms of Passive House Windows. I mean, the company's been around, I think, since the 90s, but wasn't EuroLine the first to do a certified Passive House window in Canada?
Yes, we were. So 30 years ago when EuroLine started, they were the first company to bring a tilt and turn window to Vancouver, to the West Coast, from the European style window. And yes, we were the first Canadian company to get a certified product through PHI in Germany, and also the first company to supply windows for Passive House projects here in BC that got certified, the first and biggest multifamily project, the Skeena project in 2017. So we have a lot of experience with Passive House. And that was a driving factor for me coming here too, as I was interested in being more than a design consultant and a sales guy. I was more interested in being part of the building science and promoting a product that was part of a high performance building.
Yeah. So as a certified Passive House consultant, I mean, you have the training and you're applying that there at EuroLine Windows. So what does that look like in your work?
Well, it comes up every day. I mean, EuroLine was when I expressed an interest to become a Passive House consultant. EuroLine supported me right away. I did the course, partly during my workday through Passive House Canada. And it's been a huge asset. It's an asset to me personally in what I do in my day-to-day, but it's also an asset to our entire team because, in Vancouver, we do deal with high performance buildings, even if they are not Passive House. We have a very stringent energy step code here. So all buildings have to be compliant to a certain energy consumption parameters. Mm-hmm. And so knowing how that Passive House system works, and especially the window aspect of Passive House, has really been a huge tool in understanding what we can do and how we can better help our clients as well. So, we can help redesign how windows are configured, for example, or put them into ultimate configuration so that they perform the best. And that can help our clients with budget, but ideally it helps them with getting a beautiful looking window as per the architect's drawings that's also going to perform to its utmost capacity.
Right. I mean, Passive House it's this whole systems approach to buildings, and that of course doesn't have to be Passive House. The systems understanding of how building performance works, operates at all levels of performance, and this you mentioned the step code, which is a super exciting kind of rubric. Those of us south of the border look at with envy, bringing that kind of understanding of how the windows are part of this multifaceted approach to building performance would be really valuable to the designers and the practitioners who are making the project happen.
Yeah, and having taken the course and understanding, the real intricacies of the different components of a window and the glass to frame ratios and things like that, understanding there's such a big difference between what's on the performance sticker on a window and how a window actually performs. Mm-hmm. And, that allows us to really maximize what we can do with our systems. So, understanding those small details allows us to better guide our clients and to also better guide ourselves in how we put things together. Right. So it's been interesting. I thought I knew a lot before I took that course. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to be the person who doesn't know what he doesn't know.
Right. Right.
But now I would say that that sort of taught me that at some points I was.
Yeah.
Especially regarding, how to best utilize the fenestration in the building.
Sure.
And how it ties in with, other things. I mean, if the windows aren't performing better, you have to do something else. You have to add insulation. Mm-hmm. And those things can be very costly, time consuming. And we want to be the member of the team that's really, leading the pack as opposed to, slowing other people down.
Let's get into that a little bit more, because clearly with these early moves that EuroLine has made in the Passive House world, being the first certified Passive House window in Canada, the work on these pioneer projects, there's a purpose-driven element of the company, right? Could you talk a little bit about that, like the why of EuroLine?
Yeah, well, just going back to the foundations of the company 30 years ago, to be the first to do something different, to bring a tilt and turn window to Vancouver because of the quality of it and also because of the way that it performs. I mean, a tilted open window actually lets more volume of air, fresh air into a room than a typically open outwards casement. So from the very get-go, the driving factor, the driving force behind EuroLine has been quality and performance. So that was a natural step then for us to become the first company to have a Passive House certified product.
Yeah.
Our CEO David, and the ownership of the company, that's their focus is when we're looking at perhaps a new product, a new sliding door system, for example, it's not about the bling factor. It's not about the bells and whistles on that may, impress somebody. It's more about how is this product going to perform, and how is it going to perform long term. So we're putting this in a house that, this needs to hold up to the EuroLine name. Yeah. And I would say that's really always been the why behind EuroLine.
Mm-hmm. Well, that quality and performance, I mean, that's if you're looking at an approach to building that is about quality and performance, is Passive House. So that makes it makes sense. So there's that kind of resonance there. So how about a little bit more about the details of the windows that EuroLine makes? I mean, it's both windows for residential and commercial projects, and fiberglass and UPVC. Can you dive deeper into that for us?
Yeah, so we have a full range of product lines that are Passive House certified. So tilt and turn window systems, doors, and sliding door systems. As you know, they apply for both custom residential and multifamily residential buildings. It's a very adaptable product. Everything we do is super customizable. Something we take a lot of pride in is that we're always willing to look at a challenging situation and adapt our product to fit it and to fit it to perform well in a different situation. So we can do really big sizes. We can do up to 70 square feet of glass. And so it's a glass fiber reinforced UPVC system. It's got foam inserts in it that, eliminate any kind of thermal bridging through the systems. Fusion welding. So our corners are fusion welded, even though there is an element of fiberglass in there. And we can do glass IGUs up to 52 millimeters thick. So over 2 inches thick. So wow. Super high performing. And then we can vary within the system from 52 down to 44 in triple glazing. And, we also do crazy shapes, we have over 100 different colors. The colors we use are not painted colors, they're foiled colors. So super high longevity on those. And we also have a high performing casement window. So in the North American market, people are used to seeing an outswing casement window. So we didn't want to have a product that didn't perform up to the standards that our tilt and turn and other Passive House products do. So our triple gasketed casement window is actually FIAS certified. That's how well it performs.
Cool. Yeah.
So and so that gives us some adaptability in a project. For example, if you need in certain locations in a house, an in-swing tilt and turn window isn't ideal in a small bathroom, for example. So you can put a casement window in those kinds of applications without, compromising the performance of the entire building.
Yeah, that's smart. And you just opened a new showroom. I saw on the banner on your homepage in Toronto. Is that right?
Yeah. So we have 3 showrooms here in BC. Yeah. We have a really beautiful showroom here in Vancouver and another new flagship for Toronto. That's a really nice location, nice spot. We're really expanding into that Eastern market. We've got some nice projects on the go there. And we have well-supported agents throughout the Pacific Northwest, especially, and all the way down into California. We have an agent recently started working with us in Utah. So we ship North America wide. So the fact that we are a super custom company, we can sometimes meet targets or meet a custom kind of spec that other companies just can't or aren't willing to try. So of course we're gonna go custom within the restraints of being performing at the correct levels and being warrantable. but we do some pretty funky stuff, and we're pretty proud of that.
Yeah. So if I'm a designer or a homeowner and I'm looking for EuroLine Windows, I mean, obviously they're the showrooms, but if I'm not close to a showroom, where should I go? Where should I look?
Well, you should come to our website, EuroLineWindows.com. You'll see a full array of all of our products there. So all of our window and door systems, a beautiful gallery of previous projects. And there's some really good tools there as well. Some tools to help designers figure out specifications and the size range and stuff like that of our products. We can provide CAD drawings as well. So our website would be a great place to start. And then from there, you can contact us here in Vancouver, and they will either point you to the nearest showroom or the nearest agent that's in that area. And we follow up with absolutely every person that reaches out to us, of course, and are happy to work with projects from the very top to the very bottom of North America with ease.
Yeah, awesome. And what sort of wait times are you looking at for the shipping of the windows?
It's always under 8 weeks.
That's great.
So we can complete an order within 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. We always have the ability, like I say, within the local market, it's probably a little quicker than that because we're shipping locally, but we can get product to you in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is with what is currently happening in the market. We are very proud that we can, maintain that 8 week parameter.
No, that's remarkable. Yeah.
Good time frame.
So let's pivot a little bit, if you don't mind, and into kind of projects or partnerships that you are working on now. Like what's some cool stuff that's happening for you?
Yeah, well, we mentioned the step code here in BC. We're privileged to be here in a place where people are very environmentally conscious, and even our legislators are backing that up. So we do get a lot of high performance projects to work on, and we're very privileged to have that opportunity. I have 2 large multifamily projects going right now that are both in construction, so they're like 100 unit passive house that we're supplying windows and doors, and we're doing the install for. So I'm very, I guess I'm a construction nerd, so I like to keep my eye on all of my projects from the ground up. So I visit the sites even when it's way before windows. But I think that especially in passive house and in these types of buildings, you need to be involved to answer questions and to be helpful to the contractor as they go through the framing process. Because there are some little tricks or some little, pointers that we can add to help out to make sure that they're not running into a difficulty later that was unforeseen that, we could have been an aid in avoiding. We did a really cool First Nations project with BC Passive House last year, which was they're a prefab panel maker you're probably familiar with. So that's very interesting because it's nice to see a project like that happening where typically they get really low quality buildings. Instead, they're getting a really high quality building. And I was very proud to be a part of that one last year. And then I mentioned prefab wall manufacturers. There are several of them here in the Vancouver area, like BC Passive House for one, and also doing a project right now with B Collective, who use their BOSS system. They're doing a single family home right now. I have a couple of other projects upcoming with them later this year. Chris and his team are very fun to work with and very knowledgeable. And it's interesting to see how they customize each project. We were at a presentation last week, and he's showing, the different wall assemblies and doing, carbon capture in a different wall assembly versus the one that needed to be a firewall. So they made up with the materials used in another wall to have a lower carbon footprint. That kind of stuff really interests me, and it makes me happy to be a part of projects like that. and to be in a call with them or to be on site with them and just bouncing ideas back and forth about how to do things better and more quickly. We're talking about, in prefab wall assemblies, putting window frames only into the walls before shipping, and then glazing on site, because it makes for a really nice, clean environment to install the window frames and get a nice, clean, tight finish around them for air tightness, et cetera.
So
like that.
Interesting. Yeah.
So we're happy to be in an environment like this where the market is really focused on performance and that we get to be involved in the conversation. So it's pretty fun. I've also
I was just going to reflect that the Vancouver is this hotbed of not just passive house adoption, like in the marketplace and built projects and projects on the way, but also of people, of innovators and practitioners and expertise. You mentioned Chris Hill. Just had him on the Passive House Accelerator Live program who was presenting about BOSS, and then also on the podcast, and BC Passive House, and just the whole kind of cast of characters who are really on the forefront of practice. So I imagine, and you guys as window manufacturers, I imagine it's pretty fun to be part of that group.
Yeah, it is. And it's also fun as the window manufacturer to be the one that, people look to, like, well, EuroLine, we're the first ones doing this. What do you guys think? How can we go about doing this? Mm-hmm. Or they ask us questions. Can we change this a little bit to overcome a certain problem that everyone is facing? So we're always open to suggestions from others, when they're facing issues or trying to tackle problems. We're looking at ways that we can tweak our products to do so. It's nice to be, as a window manufacturer, it's nice to be the company that was the first to have certified passive house products, to be the go-to company. We're spec'd on a lot of projects by architects and designers because they know what our quality is and they know about our experience. So our experience is a huge asset to a person who's, especially to a company, for example, that's building their first passive house. If they're dealing with a window company who's reputable, who knows what they're talking about, who's done passive house before, we have experience throughout the company with passive house. The guys that are making the windows know when they're making a passive house window versus a typical building code window. It's a different animal. So that goes a long way. And it's nice to be the company that people will ask for advice. How should we go about this? A designer called me up and say, what's the best configuration of this window into this wall system? Or where should I set the window within the depth of the wall?
Right.
So, and we have the answers to those questions because that's what we're here for.
Yeah, definitely. So what's coming next? What's on the horizon for EuroLine, for you? What's coming?
Lots is coming. We're constantly innovating. We're always looking at new ways to do things better. Passive house and high performance building is always a learning curve. So there are challenges to be overcome. There's always better ways to do things. You never want to be the person who thinks they have figured it out, because there's always going to be a new product available or a new way of doing things. Somebody may have solved a simple problem that we can, implement into our systems. There is something really big coming. The industry challenge, I would say right now, is finding a product that has a long lifespan, that's going to have good quality with low maintenance over a long lifespan, that is recyclable and has some elements of recyclable materials within them. So how do you overcome that challenge? How do you come up with a good product that you can count on to perform well for a long period of time and have a low or a lower environmental impact?
Yeah.
There is an announcement to come.
Well, you've totally piqued my curiosity, and I think lots of folks will be really interested to hear what this announcement is. You're right. That's a key problem to solve for. So it'll be fun to see what you guys have come up with.
Yeah, and then the other thing I would say that's on the horizon for me personally is, just to continue the learning curve. There are a lot of forums like Passive House Accelerator that I do my best to be involved in whenever I can, to be present at meetings of like-minded people, events, case study projects that I can tour around. And Passive House Canada has always has upgraded education that's available. I recently took a Flixo course. Nice. I really like to be the guy who's really down into the nuts and bolts of these things, even if it's not Windows specific, but something like knowing how a Flixo model works is obvious to the window industry and in the frame assemblies, but then knowing how that integrates into a wall assembly and, looking at isotherms and a window assembly into a wall is very cool. And, it's knowledge that we need. So I think that in the coming years, it will be a continued learning curve, and we hope to be, we know we will be the leaders in this and the lead innovators.
Yeah, well, I think that's what's so fun about being part of this whole world is that it's constantly evolving, and all of us are kind of, I think, helping each other evolve in that evolution, as we try to make better and better buildings and better solutions, and then we become aware of new challenges, like as you were alluding to around the recyclability of components, and the embodied carbon of components, like all of these different the evolution of the energy mix of our grid, like it's all moving and changing. It needs to, we need all of that to evolve and improve, and as that happens, and as the world changes with the impacts of climate change, we necessarily are going to be coming up with refined solutions all the time, and so it keeps us on our toes.
Yeah. And I like that it's an open forum and it's an open conversation where, for example, an architect will ask us, well, can you do this for me? This is a problem we have, like a door threshold, for example. What can we do about having a high performing door threshold for a passive house? Mm-hmm. It's a problem because you need a low threshold, but you need it to be airtight and you need it to have a good FSRI. So no conductivity through it. Those are the kinds of challenges that we're looking at and we're trying to solve, because being able to field a question like that as a manufacturer, I think, is a big deal. So manufacturers typically say, no, we don't make that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We just don't have that. Mm-hmm. But we're the manufacturer or the fabricator that says, yes, we'll look into it. We'll look into a solution for that. There has to be a good solution for it, and we'll find it. And I think that's what the whole passive house industry is about, and that's why we're a part of it. We're excited to be part of the Passive House Accelerator and to be sponsoring, and we're looking forward to some exciting projects upcoming, and to seeing the knowledge of passive house especially grow in the general community. I think that's really important, that we get the message out there that this is the best, most, earth friendly way to build a building.
And that was Alfred Jury of EuroLine Windows. Alfred's also a certified passive house consultant. Really enjoyed that chat, Zach. There's a couple of really good quotes there from Alfred. Right at the start, he mentioned that good fenestration makes for a good building, which I think is very true, because the influence that windows have on the performance of the building is quite large, given compared with their size. They make a lot of difference to the heat gain, but also potentially the heat loss and also I think they contribute a lot to how people feel about the building, because it's something that connects people to the outside, but it's also what people interact with.
Windows also need to connect into so many important systems in a passive house envelope, with the airtight layer, the thermal barrier, and of course the whole energy balance that you're working toward, with solar gain and shading and all that, or shielding from solar gain. So there are so many ways that the building science that applies to a passive house, kind of must travel through the choices you're making around your windows. So it is so important. And you're so right about the impact that windows have on the experience of a building. And this just actually came up. I was just at the Red Willow project that Dan Whitmore is building in Seattle, Washington, and they're using EuroLine Windows on that project. They haven't done the installation of those yet, but one of the things that is right on with what you were saying is that he was, doing kind of, as he was optimizing the passive house design of that project, weighing, the potential of doing like exterior insulation layer, or maybe instead focusing on triple pane better windows. In Seattle, you can actually sometimes in a multifamily building get away with doing double pane windows, particularly with FIA certification. So he chose to go the route of more investment in the windows rather than in the insulation, because he knew how important what kind of impact that would have on the experience of people inside these buildings. It's close to a busy street, so it will make the inside of the project quieter. And of course, there's also just the thermal experience of, in the winter, knowing that the inside of that inside face of the window is not going to be cold, and you're not going to feel any sort of draft.
The other thing that Alfred mentioned was about the importance of getting into onto the project early, and offering advice as a consultant now, as a passive house consultant, but also just that general building science advice. We hear this quite a lot from suppliers of high quality products and high performance products into projects that are looking to do passive house or just better performance. And Alfred definitely comes across as someone who's interested in the overall performance of the building, not just about selling windows. He's very passionate about what he does, but he looks at what he does as being taking a responsibility for the overall performance, and also identifying those issues around those connections, things that, particularly if someone's doing a passive house for the first time or dealing with airtightness to that level for the first time, it's so useful to have someone involved early on that can identify anything that might go wrong and be harder to fix later on. So, we've heard that a number of times from suppliers of not just Windows, but other products as well, that they really like to get involved in the project early on, which I think is a really good lesson for, it's a really good thing for designers to remember, because I guess that could sound quite overwhelming. So, we've got to think about all this stuff early on. But the thing to remember is that those people are really keen to help. So it shouldn't be seen, you shouldn't see it as a chore, but there's a real willingness for people to help, and so reach out and get in touch with these people, because they really can help guide a project early on. Alfred actually said towards the end there, it's nice to be the company that people will ask for advice. So these suppliers are very keen, very happy to help out and offer design advice, particularly at that early stage. Alfred mentioned the step code, which I guess being so busy early on in around Vancouver, British Columbia, but now also spreading east, opening up in Toronto, it's great that the step code, which we've talked about on the show a lot, is making inroads into the whole building industry. Certainly other people are picking up and paying attention to that. Another thing people are paying attention to is Be Collective BOSS system, which Alfred also mentioned. And we've recently featured Be Collective on the show as well. So it's really nice to hear when all these things start coming together and start literally building on each other.
What a community of practice that's building up in Vancouver. It's really exciting.
Yeah, and that showroom over in Toronto sounds pretty cool too.
No doubt, exactly. And I think Passive House Canada's conference will be really close, so people can check it out.
Yeah, awesome. Great stuff. So big thanks to EuroLine. Really cool to have their support to keep to everything we do on Passive House Accelerator, but also just that support that we've mentioned, that technical support and being part of the community as well is really cool. So definitely reach out to Alfred and the team if you're looking for Windows or at the early stage of a design project. We've got a great team of people there that can help.
We're really pleased to be able to partner with EuroLine as a patron sponsor. So it's big thank you to their support of the accelerator and the community of Passive House in North America and beyond, in New Zealand too. So
great. We'll be back again later with a regular episode of the Passive House podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll be back soon.